the most concrete step we're taking right now is developing the first 2 or 3 prototypes, which will begin to put a face on the National Peace Academy. One of them will be in the area of peace education, and it has to do with community learning. And in fact, we will take the principles of community-based institutes on peace education and the principles of peace building and leverage resources in a community in a way that helps the community then define and develop and process how they want to move forward, particularly in a community where there have been problems with violence. Because one of the things we realize early on is there's a difference between conflict and violence, and we can all learn to deal with conflict wisely and responsibly before it escalates to violence. So there's some healing that needs to take place before you can even get to the place of talking about peace education. There's community work for all of us to do. So one of our early prototypes will be based on those principles and processes of peace education, which will be unique unto itself and, again, offer a value added. Another prototype we are looking at is the library and clearinghouse, which will be virtual to begin with, but we trust that it will also be structural, and again, pulling together resources for the entire field. It will be a value-added piece. And then another very concrete next step is peace research. And we are seeking to do positive peace research, which we are finding in business and elsewhere, government, people are asking for that right now. So rather than looking at negative peace research, exactly, we look at what works. And so, and how do we build on the strengths then, knowing that this is what creates a sustainable, cooperative, civil society infrastructure of well-being, and take a look at positive peace, and that will certainly help government, business, and civil society.
I don't know if you're familiar with the Global Peace Index that Steve Killalea has begun with the Economist magazine, and we were speaking with him about this last September. We were talking about this, and other people have noticed also that it's an index of negative peace. It defines peace as the absence of violence or the absence of warfare, or how many police you have, or how many murders you have or don't have, and that sort of thing in your culture, how many people are in prison. The absence of those things are good, quote unquote good, and that's negative peace. And he says he recognizes that, and other people have questioned that also. Why is everything in the index is negative peace? And he understands that, and he says he'd like very much to get measures of positive peace in the index. In other words, how do you see peace out there, other than the absence of something? How do you observe peace? How do you measure that? We don't know how to do that. He says there's no research out there that says how do you actually measure positive peace, the presence of peace, not the absence of something else. So there's an opportunity for research there, and what is positive? How can you measure and observe it?
In the discussion that we had with him, it was clear that measurements like economic well-being, health and welfare, and such things, are really pretty important.
Yes.
So there are a lot of underlying, I guess what I'd call enablers of peaceful living. I don't know that he'd call it enablers of peaceful living, that are important indices and important precursors that just have to be
Precursors, yes.
Prerequisites, I guess.
So how do you observe the right relationships? If we define peace as the right relationships, as Scott was saying earlier, how do we observe those? How do we